Thanks so much, Sharon. So what I'll be doing today is talking a little bit about low code and the Power Platform. I'll highlight some of the things that are new and some of our big investment areas. And of course, because this is Teams Nation, putting definitely a spin on it in terms of what we're doing right inside the context of Microsoft Teams and everything in the M365 space. So unfortunately, while I'm presenting, I can't see the chat. So what we'll do is, I'll go through and I'll answer, as many questions at the end. I think we'll have plenty of time for some good Q&A. So if you have thoughts, questions, things you'd like to see more about, please don't hesitate to stick that right in the chat, and then we can have a good discussion at the end. So with that, I'll go ahead and dive right in. So to start with some background on why we're so interested in what we call low code, no code, low code. It's a bit of a buzzword, but it also is very, very meaningful to us. And the reason is because there just aren't enough people in the world who are professional developers to solve the needs that organizations have in terms of creating applications, creating experiences, creating automation for their own purposes. And by some estimates, we're missing over 4 million developers, and there needs to be over 500 million apps built in the next 4 years. And the only way to do that is by changing the conversation away from, hey, how do we have professional developers that can solve all of these needs, to instead focus on how do we empower everybody to build applications, to create the experiences that they need in order to be productive for their own business purposes. So we talk about low code and no code as a way to truly empower everybody inside an organization. And that doesn't mean specifically only business users. In fact, we have a ton of IT administrators and professional developers who are using the Power Platform today in order to be more productive. And what's great about low code is it's so much faster and easier to build an app in PowerApps or to build a flow in Power Automate than it would have been before to open up Visual Studio and to get all of the right dev tools installed and to do all of those things. So that's why professional developers gravitate more and more to this low code experience. It's just more rapid. But that being said, the real core purpose for low code is that everybody, irrespective of skill level, can build experiences. So when we think about what this means inside of Teams, for example, obviously inside of Teams, you have a rich, kind of an OS of a sort where you need ways to build new experiences right inside of Teams channels, inside of conversations, inside of every aspect of Teams. Low code is the fastest way to do that and the most scalable way to do that. So that's why we're really excited about low code in the context of Microsoft Teams especially. So when we talk about low code and no code, the Power Platform, we're really talking about 4 different programs that we have available. Hopefully you've heard of all these terms before, so it's a little bit of a recap, but just to give you a sense of the way that we talk about these. We start with Power BI. That's all about understanding your data, how to look at the information that your business has. Maybe it's not necessarily at its fingertips, but it could be siloed away in different systems, bringing all that information together and presenting it in a way where you can actually take action based on that data. And Power BI, like all the pieces inside the platform, deeply integrated with Teams. So you can do things like include Power BI visuals right inside of your Teams chats. You can do things like view and monitor all of your dashboards pinned right inside of Teams. So Power BI is about getting that information, analyzing that information. The next one is PowerApps. PowerApps is where you want to be able to build custom experiences, right? You want a way to show information to people in a complex format. You want to be able to have people fill in information, right? PowerApps is more than just about displaying something, but it's also about helping people to take action, helping people to be able to fill in, forms, be able to interact with different sources of data, and to make decisions. So PowerApps today supports both web and mobile development. So people on their phones more and more every day, they can use PowerApps as the way to create custom experiences for their phones. Next is Power Automate, and for those who know me, I am very passionate about Power Automate. That's my favorite of all of the products because I work on that. But Power Automate is really about how to make automation accessible to everybody inside an organization. There's lots of different flavors of automation, right? Automation can be something as simple as when I get an important email from somebody, ping me in a Teams chat. So that way if I have Teams up all day, I'm not paying as close attention to email, but if it's an important email, I want to get that notification right inside of Teams. So you can set up a very simple notification flow like that. But what automation scales to is wide enterprise processes that touch every aspect of the organization. And these processes can both be on people's desktop PCs, right? So we have something called Power Automate for desktop that ships as a part of Windows 11 that you can actually get as a way to run automation locally on those programs that you have running on your computer, but also to the cloud and leveraging a lot of the AI capabilities that we have inside of Azure. And the final component of the Power Platform is Power Virtual Agents. Power Virtual Agents is really interesting, especially in Teams, because it has a way to create conversational applications that are, instead of opening up a screen and filling out information, it could be a back and forth conversation with a bot. And that bot, just like everything else inside of this platform, is purely low code. You don't have to worry about understanding the intricacies of bot development or the bot framework. All you need to do is drag and drop to create conversational agents. So that's the big picture. And this is something that resonates with a wide variety of customers and a wide variety of industries, really around the world, in Europe, in Asia, in Americas. There's people in every discipline leveraging the Power Platform. And this is something that, if we look specifically at PowerApps, 92% of the Fortune 500 use PowerApps today. And even more when you include Power BI and Power Virtual Agents and Power Automate, it's up to 97%. So, really good companies across the board are leveraging this for transforming the low-code needs that they have. And it's not just the biggest companies in the world. It really is one of the #1 adopted low-code platforms in the world across organizations of every size. And there's surveys that have been done that have found that over half of CIOs would select Microsoft as their enterprise automation platform. So that's something that we're really proud of, and it's because of this low code value, this idea that it's approachable, easy to get started with, that's really important to make people be enthusiastic, as they are, about the Power Platform. And of course, one of the things that's particularly important about that platform is the ecosystem that we've built. So people spend their day inside of Microsoft products, absolutely. We're inside of Microsoft Teams today having this conversation, but most data still sits outside of the context of a Microsoft system, right? That's where the data connectors come in, and that's one of the reasons why we've been able to accelerate so much into every organization, is because we let data stay where it needs to stay. We don't say you have to do a big data migration project in order to get into the platform. Instead, you can use our data connector ecosystem that works across all of those applications I was talking about moments ago. And not only do we ship over 600 data connectors, but you can build your own. This is actually an open source community on GitHub where anybody can build their own connectors, contribute to the community, and increase the connectivity of the platform. So with that, I'm going to dive a little bit into what's next. What are some of the new features, and what are some of the things that are coming inside of the platform now that we've kind of have that initial background? So there are 5 areas that are particularly interesting in the context of what we're working on: enterprise trust, AI, collaborative apps, a term called fusion teams, and hyper automation. So what I'm going to do, instead of going in the order, I'm actually going to start with collaborative apps, because hey, we're here talking about teams, and would love to dive deeper into that one first. So when we talk about collaborative apps, what we're really thinking about is how are people working together inside of organizations. And with COVID-19 and hybrid work, all of that has changed fairly dramatically over the past few years. And it's not like These are trends that weren't already happening inside of organizations, but the pandemic has really accelerated a lot of that transformation. So what this means is the way that people are working inside of the applications that they have needs to be collaborative with other people. And concretely, what that looks like is the data that people have in their business systems needs to be accessible right inside of Microsoft Teams. Right, the business data that is important to them is something that it's like the lifeblood of an organization, and that means it needs to be accessible and show up very quickly. Once you have the data, you need to be able to communicate about it, right? And that's again what Teams is great with, is you can have conversations, you can have calls, you can have all of these communications right alongside your business data. But not only is it about the data inside the organization, it's also about the experience of building those applications. And what we found is just like we need people to be able to collaborate about their business information, they need to be able to collaborate while they're building an app, while they're building a flow. So we've added new capabilities right into the surface of, say, authoring an app, where while I'm building a Power App, I can leave comments just like you can inside of Microsoft Word or inside of PowerPoint. You can have comments where you can go back and forth and figure out, where some improvements could happen, just like you can with any other Office documents. So diving into a couple of features that I think are really indicative of what we're working on. One of the ones that's most exciting is this idea of bringing chat into PowerApps. So of course, PowerApps have been inside of Teams for many years, where you could go to a Teams channel, pin a Power App, make it accessible there. But we thought, hey, what if we do it the other way around too? What if we bring Teams conversations into PowerApps? And this is interesting because if you think about wide variety of disciplines, where I have a sales app and I'm collaborating with other people on that sales account. Wouldn't it be great if right from inside of that sales app, I can just kick off a conversation? And not only is it about kicking off a conversation, it's also about the context of that application. I can have a chat about this specific opportunity in the context of this application with the other people working on that opportunity, right? That information can show up right. And behind the scenes, this is all Microsoft Teams, right? Microsoft Teams has provided us with a lightweight chat client that we can actually let users embed into any of their applications. So that way they can get access to the rich chat capabilities. And it isn't limited to just chat. You can also do calling. There's co-presence, so you can see if there's other people available. And theoretically, this can also be used for conversations externally, right? Because Teams supports calls across organizations. You could even be collaborating with people in a completely different company about this particular opportunity. So this is one of those new capabilities. We're going to continue enhancing this so that way you get really the full power of Teams inside of Power Apps, just like we've already had the full power of Power Apps inside of Teams. And another one of the things that we're doing is this actually completed rollout just 2 days ago on March 21st. So this is a very timely conversation to have, is the new workflows capabilities inside of Microsoft Teams. So what this is there is a new section in the store for Teams. So if, hopefully all of you are in Teams right now, and I'm not going to tell you to go, to a different tab or anything. But when you're done with this session, if you'd like, click on Store, and you will actually see workflows. It's a little hidden because it starts with apps at the top of that screen, but right below that is workflows. And we have dozens of templates that are tailored made for Microsoft Teams, specific scenarios that are really, really useful. Things like notifying a channel when you're out of office, scheduling messages. Some folks on my team love the ability to schedule a message because they don't want to bother other people outside of the work hours. So instead of sending a message right away, if I'm, burning the midnight oil and I want to set something to my team, but I don't want them to, have Teams pop up in the middle of the night, I can schedule that message and it'll arrive when their work hours start. So those types of simple workflows all the way up to more complex approval scenarios are possible with these templates right inside of Teams. There's an updated Teams app for managing your automations and your workflows, and we have released the ability to create and trigger flows from messages inside of Teams. So all of these capabilities are now available, building on Power Automate right inside of Teams. And the other thing we've done is we've made Dataverse data more accessible inside of Teams and really across a wide variety of services. So we've integrated with the Microsoft Search capabilities. So that way, if you have data inside of Dataverse, you can get at it. And we don't have a picture here, but you can actually, when you reference that data inside of Teams, we'll show a nice adaptive card right inside of the Teams chat. So that way you can see that dynamics data, that Dataverse data, click on it and get access to it. So we're making that data more and more accessible across all of the applications. So those are some of the big things that we've been working on for collaborative apps. So what I'll talk about now is a term that we call fusion teams. And there's no, magical energy here. It's not about fusion power. This is about bringing together teams that involve people with a variety of skill levels, a variety of different disciplines. And this is important because, as I talked about at the beginning of the conversation, Power Automate and PowerApps, these aren't just tools for business users. Although business users can get a lot of value out of those scenarios that we've talked about, there's also a ton of value for professional developers. And there's a bunch of tools out there that professional developers want to use, right? They want to use GitHub, Visual Studio, Azure. So what we have done is we've created a set of capabilities that make it possible for you to have a team of people who are working on professionally developed assets inside of Azure, inside of Visual Studio. And in that same team, there can be other people who are building their apps inside of PowerApps, building their automations inside of Power Automate. And what we have done to enable this is a variety of things. We've created things like GitHub Actions for source control, so that way you can see and manage all of the data in a repository where you can use the same tooling that developers are familiar with, but it can still be easy for those low-code folks to be able to make their changes in the applications. We have tooling inside of Visual Studio, I'll talk about in a second, and a lot of deep integration with Azure services. So that way, when you build, for example, a custom connector, you could actually have custom logic that can run inside of Azure Functions. So that way you can enrich that connector. So that way it can transform data in a way that makes it more consumable for those developers inside of the low-code platform. So we're not looking at just the Power Platform as kind of its own thing off to the side. We're really looking at fusing teams together with professional developers and low-code developers to solve the business needs inside an organization. Specifically, Power Platform, Visual Studio extensions, these are one of the new things that we've been working on, and we're going to continue to do enhancements here. And this is both for Visual Studio as well as VS Code. And we've seen that people love both for different reasons. A lot of .NET developers really like the power and the capability of Visual Studio, but we also see a ton of people, especially modern web development. A lot of that is happening inside of Visual Studio Code. So we actually have added capabilities to both, so that way people can build and publish the things that they want from right inside of those experiences. So although, again, low code doesn't require any of these capabilities here, you don't have to install Visual Studio or Visual Studio extensions in order to get the value from the platform. You absolutely can if you want to use Visual Studio for your own needs. And one of the other things that we've thought about is, hey, if people are using Azure in conjunction with the Power Platform, doesn't that mean that not only they want access to those APIs, but they also want data to be able to flow between those systems? So that's why we've done something called Synapse Link. And what Synapse Link is about is it's about bringing data from the Power Platform and making it available to Azure Synapse. And once it's available in Synapse, you can do all types of fascinating big data analysis on your information. And that makes it possible for organizations to get rich insights. And you can use, of course, with Synapse, you can use Power BI. So you can, again, bring together all of these different things. And you can write custom SQL scripts, of course, if you want. And you can bring in all of the different pieces of your organization's data estate to be able to do that analysis. That's really important to understand what's going on. So this is, a little different from professional developers. This is more about, those data insights that people are doing. But as you can see here in this animation, lots of opportunity for people to bring together the best of the different parts of the platform. One of the other things that we've realized is that people use Azure for debugging and for understanding performance and telemetry and those types of things. So another new feature we've worked on is the ability to get app insights capabilities integrated with the Power Platform. So if you have an application, you can understand all of the events that are happening in the application. Everything from what screens people are on to where there's performance impact from different patterns that may not be as efficient as possible inside of the app. So all of these capabilities are available now as well. And the newest thing that we have in this space is the ability to create standalone native apps inside of Android. So if you want to be able to make private stores available, so Android and iOS, you can actually create an app, package it up, and you're kind of seeing here some of the steps you have to go through, and then distribute them via the MDM tools that are out there. And once you do this, it shows up just like any other a native app would be from that MDM solution. So this means that people, of course, they can keep using the Teams app or the PowerApps app as a way to access these things, but they don't have to. They can have something on their home screen that gets them direct access to a lot of these capabilities. The other new thing that we have, this also came out just this month, is a different way to pay. So developers in Azure really expect to pay based on how much they use. They don't really like to pre-buy a bunch of licenses and assign them. That's very much a Office 365 approach to purchasing things inside of Microsoft. So what we have done is we have created a way to, instead of paying upfront for everything that you're doing, you can connect your Azure subscription and just pay as you go. And what happens is, as people use your applications, they can get no paywalls. They just get right in, use whatever they want to do inside that app. And if it is premium capabilities that they're using, they'll just show up on the Azure bill at the end of the month. So this makes it, really reduces the friction for getting started with the platform by saying to developers, hey, pay the way you're used to paying, use your existing Azure subscriptions. You don't need to buy anything outside of Azure to get started with PowerApps now if you're using the full premium capabilities of the platform. And of course, we haven't changed the fact that a lot of PowerApps capabilities are available for free with Office 365. So that's still the case, as it always has been. This is specifically in the context of the premium capabilities we have inside of PowerApps, things like premium connectors, Dataverse, custom connectors, on-premises connectivity, all of those things, those premium capabilities. Now there's a different way to pay for them if you so choose. So now what I'm going to talk about is hyperautomation. Hyperautomation isn't a term that we can take credit for. This is something that's been talked about more and more in the industry. But the idea of hyperautomation is about bringing together different automation technologies so that way, no matter what the task is, it can be automated. Now, cloud flows are those capabilities that are natively inside of Teams. So those scenarios I was talking about a little while ago with the new workflow app that just came out on Monday, those are all about cloud flows, connecting modern systems. Of course, Teams, Office 365, these are modern systems with rich APIs that give you access to everything that you need to do. But unfortunately, not every system is modern. There's a lot of things out there where there is still data locked up in an old terminal server or a Java application. And in order to access that information, a different approach needs to be taken. And the approach for that is called RPA, or robotic process automation. And fundamentally what that's about is about automating the user interface of an application in order to pull information from it. And that is particularly useful because it provides a bridge that works no matter what. Now, as you can imagine, if you're thinking to yourself, hey, won't that be really fragile to use the UI to automate something? The answer to that is yes. using the UI to automate something introduces a chance that if that UI changes, that process will stop working. So that's why whenever possible, we recommend using APIs and cloud automation. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of old applications that aren't changing. So since those applications don't have a modern interface, aren't changing a lot, that's where RPA becomes useful. And then the third piece that we are really interested in is the AI pieces of hyperautomation. That's about pulling information in from unstructured data sources. Things like, a form that's been scanned or uploaded. Somebody sent you a picture from their cell phone, and you want to be able to get the information from that form. In order to do that, you need AI to do that. Not just OCR of recognizing the text, but also understanding the layout, understanding the semantic meaning of what's going on inside of those forms. So this together represents hyperautomation. And the RPA pieces that we start with, this is actually shipping as a part of Windows 11 today. So anybody with Windows 11, if you haven't done this before, you can click on the Start menu, type Power, and you'll actually see Power Automate is already available for you right out of box inside of Windows 11. And if you're on Windows 10, you can download it for free, or you can upgrade to Windows 11, which is probably even better, although I know that not everybody can do that. And Power Automate Desktop is a full development environment, but it's all low code, right? So it's super easy to get started. It's all point and click, drag and drop. And this is our offering for RPA. It is really rich. As the stat that I mentioned at the top, 50% of CIOs are considering Power Automate because of the rich automation capabilities that we have here inside of the platform. And there's a wide variety of systems that we can connect to. I mentioned earlier there's over 600 systems. Another big one is SAP. A lot of organizations need ways to get data to and from SAP. And this is an example where that hyperautomation story is really important, because there are some aspects of SAP where the APIs work quite well. They're kind of difficult to use, but they work. There are other cases where the APIs are very difficult to use, and you need to be able to automate the user interface. So that's why we have all of these different ways to accomplish your needs with a single platform. So that's the big picture for hyperautomation. It's really just about bringing together all of the automation technologies into a single product, rather than super focusing on one specific piece of automation or one specific scenario, bringing together these solutions end to end. So now looping back to the top of the list, enterprise trust. Of course, with a low-code platform, there's a lot of expectations about making sure that by default, everything is secure, everything is monitorable, and it can be managed by IT administrators. So we do that through these, what we call the pillars of trust. It starts with being proactive, making sure that the right policies are in place for organizations. And in fact, the default configuration for the Power Platform is secure. We can only let people access data they already have access to. You can't use the Power Platform to go and access something that you're not allowed to normally. Of course, organizations love to be able to have more granular control and specific manageability of the different aspects of the platform. So that's where things like data loss prevention policies and data encryption and exfiltration controls come in as ways to monitor and make sure that the right data is not potentially leaving and going somewhere else. But beyond being proactive, we also provide monitoring. Everything that happens in the platform is monitored, and this is way different than the previous kind of shadow IT or low-code programs that were out there. Things like VBA or Access, where if I create an Access database and put it on my PC under my desk, I would be the only one to know about that. Right? Central IT doesn't have visibility into who's using that database, what's going on inside of that. Is that business critical? There's no way for them to know. But with the Power Platform, just like with Teams, everything is cloud native by default. All of the data that happens inside the Power Platform is fully audited, so that way people can go to that Microsoft 365 Security and Compliance Center, and they can see exactly what's happening. And that means they can put the people on the line to monitor and make sure that, hey, if something goes wrong, you can go back in time, see exactly what happened, understand how to improve it. And then the last piece is about how do organizations get those best practices out there. So that's where the manage piece comes in. And there's a bunch of new features coming soon for this one. For example, better integration with Azure Active Directory. So you can actually use conditional access to manage who has access to applications, not just based on who they are, which of course has always been possible, but also things like what device are they on? Is the device that they're on company managed, or is it their own personal device? Those things are now possible at the per app level. It's always been possible for PowerApps in aggregate, but now you can, for each individual app, set up policies like that. And if an app does, do something that you don't want it to do, you can quarantine it. You can make it available only to the person who created that app. Of course, you don't have to delete the app. You can let somebody go in, fix that app, and make it better for, before you roll it out again to the organization. And we have a wide variety of guidance capabilities for those centers of excellence that I mentioned, where you want people to get those patterns, those best practices. All of those are possible with the adoption framework that we have made available for organizations. Yep. And just the last one I want to touch on is AI. AI is a huge investment area for the Power Platform, for low code in general. And some of the things we're doing, for example, are we're moving from low code to no code with GPT-3. And GPT-3 is a name for a very specific natural language understanding model. But to talk a little bit about what exactly that is, what it is about is letting people create formulas that just they type in examples. They can type in natural language, and what we will do is leverage this natural language understanding model to determine what the right thing to add to that app is. So instead of them having to write that giant formula that you see on the screen here, they can just describe it. We will analyze it using AI and stick it right into the app. So what's great about this is there's been so much challenge in the past with people getting over that initial hump of learning how to use PowerFX, which is the built-in language inside of the Power Platform. Oh, so that's just one example of how AI is making things easier. And there's a wide variety of AI models that are built into the platform. Things that help with text recognition, business cards, sentiment analysis, using even custom AI models. All of these are at people's fingertips, so that way they can get access to whatever they need, wherever that data sits. And you can even bring your own AI models. And this is new as of just a month or two as well, where in the future you can just bring custom AI models, leverage them right inside of the platform, and make it available for whatever need you have. The one other thing that we're doing in the AI space is helping people to understand where the bottlenecks are inside of processes. And this is a big challenge because we talked about that opportunity of, hey, there's 500 million apps that need to get created. There aren't enough people to go all build the apps. And even for low code, that's still a problem where there's just so much need for process optimization inside of organizations. There needs to be some way to figure out and to prioritize what the more important things are to start with. And that's what Process Advisor does. So Process Advisor is a capability that's part of the Power Platform today. And what it does is it lets you record tasks that people are doing individually or upload logs of tasks that are happening in a wide variety of systems of record. And when you have either the recordings or the uploaded logs or both, we can create process maps that show how people are walking through processes and what it is that they're doing. And in those process maps, it shows how much time is being spent on different stages. And if we can get data from multiple people, we can show different variants of those processes. Even one person could go through the same process different ways, I guess. And because you now have those insights, that can help you to prioritize how to improve the process. right? If you know what step takes the most amount of time, that means that step probably is going to get the most value if you can find a way to automate that particular action. And you can understand, hey, if something requires a lot of back and forth between applications, hey, maybe you could actually build a Power App that could be a faster way to collect that information from people. So Process Advisor is really very much a kind of a future-looking thing that is a big investment area for us going forward. So stay tuned here, as I'm sure there'll be a lot of new information. So with that, I've kind of covered the big roadmap items. We have those 5 main areas that we're investing in, from with both what we've released and some of the things that are coming in low code with the Power Platform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit out of presenter mode here and see if we can, if there's any questions for us to talk through.
There's just a couple in there at the moment. So we had, what's the update on the timeline for Dataverse search to GA? The slide said late 21. I guess we're past that.
I don't know that actually off the top of my head, but we can certainly follow up on that one and get that figured out.
Awesome. And then, is there a way to control which templates are available to users as part of the Workflows app in Teams?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as it stands today, the list is basically a pre-canned list that's available, but this is actually something that we are very much working on, because there's kind of two aspects to it, I can imagine. One is maybe there are some scenarios that you don't want people to use inside of Teams. But I think the more interesting one is maybe there are things inside your organization that we don't have a built-in template for, but that you want to be available for everybody. So that is something that we're absolutely working on right now, and we'll make available sometime later this year.
Awesome. That's literally all the questions we have for you.
Okay.
So if anybody's got anything else that they want to add,
happy to hang out here for a minute or two more, just in case any other questions come up.
Okay, while they're thinking of that, I'll ask a question. What do you think is going to be the biggest change? What's the, other than Power Automate, obviously, is something that's a passion for you. What do you think is going to make the biggest business value change in terms of the platform?
Yeah, so it's a little bit forward-looking, but the pieces that we were talking about with AI, I think, are going to be the biggest transformation that's going to be coming. And some of the example that I showed with GPT-3, where it can kind of generate some individual formulas, that's really just the starting point. Our aspiration would be, I should just be able to, just like I can ask Siri to start a timer. Imagine if I could ask Siri to build an app for me. And we're definitely not there today, and we won't be for the next few years. But that's the type of scenario that we're really thinking about, because even today with our low code capabilities, it requires a lot of work to build an app. So the more that we can make it just a kind of a natural extension of the work that people are doing every single day by bringing in AI, because we can learn, what your needs are, with things like Process Advisor, we're, trying to understand how processes exist inside of organizations. So I think really bringing AI into the experience of building applications is going to be the biggest transformation. But it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm sure, in Teams Nation 2028, we'll be talking about it, way more than.
That's really good stuff. But I kind of feel like all the platforms are coming along at the same time, kind of at the same pace. I mean, we had a brilliant session this morning with Lisa Crosby talking about D365 in Teams and how that integration is coming along. That's fantastic. Really great stuff there. The whole, you turn up to an event and then it literally populates it with the categories and everything in D365 marketing. Very cool. And we've got all of the other pieces of the puzzle all coming along at the same speed. You've got Syntex and Viva and all the stuff that's going on there on the content services. And it's kind of all that AI piece underneath, right? What is it you wanted to do with the data, rather than just, okay, we've got some data. So I really feel like everything is moving along at quite a pace. Okay, we don't have any other questions, so I'm going to let you go, which is rare.
Sounds good.
Ed says thanks for the info, and I'm sure everybody is really appreciative of your time, Stephen. Thank you so much for coming along and sharing all that with us.
Happy to be here, and as always, you can reach out to us if you have any other feedback or questions. Always happy to hear from folks. So I hope everybody has an enjoyable rest of your day.